Well, I guess I would say that starting out with the first thought, the purpose for leading. Um, my husband was at a seminar once, and he heard the presenter say, "Find your best gifts and then give them away." And in my research in resiliency, I learned that one of the things that helps people become resilient is that they know one of the things it can be is they have a purpose. And so if you have an interest or a slant in something, you might as well use it and give it away. And that's how I feel about the purpose that I feel for leading. In Esther 4:14, you remember in the book of Esther, it talks about Esther was called to go to the king to tell them what his Haman, his chief guy, was up to. And she was afraid because she could be killed. And her cousin Mordecai said, "But if you don't, all your people will be killed." And she considered that, and she said, and then he also said, "How do you not know you weren't called to the kingdom for such a time as this?" And I look at that at each of the spots that I've been. How do I know that this is where I was called to for just this time? And that's how I feel, especially about my career change now and going into my administration as a principal. And so that's the purpose for leading. My dad always said, everything you do prepares you for the next thing. And my former job definitely prepared me for what I'm doing today. So I feel called, I guess. Once I found a quote that said, a leader is, I think I shared this once before in our meeting, leader is one with a magnet, a compass in their head, and a magnet in their heart. And that's what I want to do, and that's what I feel is my purpose for leading. It's relational, and it keeps me helping people get from here to there. How is my mission statement formed? I have a brother, Pete, who is a English or a physics and chemistry high school teacher. And he teaches me these concepts of physics, and I try to put them into social terms and see where they can make us understand things differently. He told me about the grand universal theory, GUT or TOE, the theory of everything. It's the same concept that physicists believe is something that can explain everything. So I said, "Pete, what's your theory of everything of your teaching?" And he gave me this little line. I said that to my dad, who was sitting at the same coffee table with us. And he was a retired pastor at the time. And he said, "I look at people and I think, what do they need? And I go about helping them to fulfill that need." And so it really made me think, what is mine that I can say in one sentence that drives me to do what I do? Mine comes from a story about a farmer who had a carpenter come up his lane and that wanted some odd jobs. And the farmer said, "Yeah, I'll show you what you can do." And he took him to this muddy gully that separated his farm from another farm. And he said, "See that farm over there? It's my younger brother. We were best friends for 40 years, farm side by side. I don't know what started it, but he's not talking to me. I'm not talking to him. Yesterday he took a bulldozer, made this muddy gully between our farms. You can build me a wall so big that I can look over there and I won't see his place." Carpenter said, "Give me the things I need and I'll get to work." So the farmer left for a while, and when he came back, the project was almost completed. But there was no wall. Instead, there was a beautiful bridge spanning that gully, and the younger brother making his way across. And when the two met, they hugged, and the younger brother said, "I can't believe that you went to all the trouble and expense after the things I said and did to you." And at that moment, they heard the carpenter collecting his things, and they said, "Don't leave now. We've got more things to do for you around here." But the carpenter said, "I'd love to stay, but I've got to go. I've got more bridges to build." So in one sentence, what drives me is that I'm a bridge builder, my personal mission statement. So when I look at what is my vision for learning, not only building bridges, but I think of a story that a friend of mine who worked in Holden Village out in Lake Chelan in Washington said they had this series of speakers. And there was a lady every day in the front row, 90 years old, and she would just sit and listen to those speakers and take notes like crazy. My vision for learning. I want to be a 90-year-old still taking notes. I think that to go along with that, my dad's last words to me before he died were, "Stay curious." So it's that sense of curiosity, that wonder, that question, always asking questions, always reading, always searching to stretch myself. Abraham Heschel said, "Wonder is, rather than doubt, is the root of knowledge." So the curiosity, wonder. How am I doing, Tim? or I mean gender.
Oh, you got 3 minutes left.
Okay. My kids at school, after they say the pledge, we do it outside, and I say, what am I going to say? And they say, look at the river. And I say, yes, look at the river. We're by the river. And then I say, what else am I going to say? And they say, stay curious. Yes, every day I tell the kiddos at school, stay curious. My personal beliefs on teaching and learning come from a philanthropist my husband showed me once. His name is Jerry Panis. He said, it's not our job to bring the horse to water or to make him drink. It's our job to make the horse thirsty. And in teaching, wow, that's our job, to nurture that curiosity, to make them want to reach for the text that make them thirsty. So my style in leadership, it's servant leadership, it's transformational. I agree with Tim. I like that level 5 leader that Jim Collins talks about in his book. It's always relational. You can't get people from one place to the other unless you have relationship. That's what knits the bridge together. And I agree with Tim too. I taught my students, my counseling students, about the eye of the fly. You can't catch a fly because their eyes are beveled. They see in so many directions. And as leaders, we need to constantly look at the perspectives so that we can understand where people are coming from. Like Covey said, seek to understand rather than to be understood, because then people will listen and you can bring them across the bridge.
A minute and a half.
What?
You have 1.5 minutes left.
Oh, I do. Okay. People won't remember what you said. They'll remember how you made them feel. And then they will follow you or go places they didn't think they could go. There's 3 words that I often ended my class with to have the students sum things up. And I think what sums up what I want to do as a leader is 3 words that my dad always said. Assign people value. If people feel valued, they will find that they can do more than they thought they could. And that is what a leader should do, is to help them realize they can become more.